Rev up your engines!
Well, here we go again with Hyundai and Kia, Korean car craft. They're now recalling 122,000 cars because the transmissions might fail. They're having problems with the computers and the circuit controls on their 8-speed automatic dual clutch transmissions. They're very complex. They're basically a standard transmission with 2 clutches and 8 speeds, only instead of you pushing your foot on the clutch and shifting gears with your hand, the computer does it electronically, engages the clutch, shifts the gears. When they work, they're great. When they're not, they're horrible. Well, these are just, they break down inside, then they give a warning that says, stop car soon, warning. And you got 20 to 30 seconds to get out of the side or the clutch disengages and the car just rolls and won't drive itself anywhere. Great on the freeway. Maybe you're in LA on the freeway, doing 80. And all of a sudden you got 20 to 30 seconds to get off the road. Good luck on that one, Now it's mainly 20 to 2022, Santa Fe, Sonata, Veloster. All you got to do, if you need to see what it is, get your VIN number if you own one of these Korean cars. Go to the National Highway Traffic Safety Association.gov website, type in your VIN number, it'll tell you whether there's a recall or not. They're saying, take it to the dealer, and they'll give you a software upgrade to see what happens. But if the transmission is ruined, they'll replace the gearbox. They're going to try to fix them all with a software update. That won't work. Obviously, it's design flaw. A bunch of them, they'll probably have to change the transmissions on, which of course costs a small fortune. And I'm sure you're going to get the same piece of crap that came in the first place. And then that'll break too. I see that so many times. They recall some, they put something in. Look at the Takata airbags. They recalled them. Then people had them put in, the new ones. But then they recalled the new ones that they put in later, and they had to put new ones in again. So, my advice, stay away from Korean cars if you value your money. Robinson Selson says, why does my Tribeca engine consume too much oil? I got a 2011 Subaru Tribeca, flat 6-cylinder with 120,000 miles on it. It burns oil. Why does it burn oil? Kind of answered your own question there. Because it's a 6-cylinder Subaru. Here's the thing. Subaru started out with smaller engines. They're like Volkswagen copies. They're flat 4, 2 on each side, only they're water-cooled instead of air-cooled like the old Volkswagen Beetles were. But of course, we got to make bigger, faster. So then they made a kind of Porsche copy, a 6-cylinder box. 3 on this side, 3 on that side. And those engines have historically had nothing but problems. Valve springs going, pistons going, head gaskets blowing, and consuming oil. They are just not that well made as they age. You got 120,000 miles. You say you change your oil every 5,000 miles. You're doing your job. Problem with those engines is they end up burning oil anyways. That's why I tell people, if you're going to buy a modern Subaru, the new ones for the last decade or so are pretty good. They don't have the head gasket problems in the 4-cylinder engines. They don't have the valve problems in the 4-cylinder engines. I tell them, do not buy a Subaru with a 6-cylinder engine if you keep them over time. I had a customer in Houston who was a very nice guy from South Africa. He's a professor. And he was so peeved because his started rattling and burning oil when it had 60,000 miles on it. And he bought it new, changed the oil all the time. They just aren't made all that well. Engine that puts out a lot of horsepower, 6-cylinder, but it's never been designed or built correctly. And that's why it's burning oil. All you can do is keep changing your oil. That's all. Keep changing it and just live with it because the 6-cylinder Subaru engines, they're historically problematic. I would never buy another one if I were you. If you like Subarus, get one with a 4-cylinder. Neferati says, did I buy a bad fuel pump? I replaced a fuel pump 3 months of my car. Now a mechanic says it needs a new fuel pump. Is he crazy or, is the fuel pump bad already? When you need a fuel pump, there's 2 things you got to do. One is always change the fuel filter too, because you got a clogged up fuel filter. It'll strain the pump and wear it out. If you keep a dirty filter and put a new pump in, it'll strain the new one and it'll wear out. But the other one, which is even bigger, you buy a fuel pump for your car. Get an original equipment, they call it OEM, original equipment manufacturer's fuel pump, the same one that was built on the car. Because if you go aftermarket, go to a discount auto parts store, look, the dealer one's $400, this one's only $110. Well, the $110 one invariably is made either in China or Mexico, where the quality's crap. I've seen them where they don't even work from the beginning. They'll run, but they won't run right because they don't put out the correct pressure. Or they'll go for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then break again because they're just cheaply made. It's the fuel pump of your car is like the heart inside you. Boom, 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 boom. It's a really important part. You don't want to save a couple $100 buying a cheap one. When you're going to replace it, get the original equipment. It was designed for the car, well made for the car, and it's got the right pressures. All cars are fuel injected today. The fuel injection works by pressure differentials. If the pressure is wrong in a pump, it'll screw the whole thing up, drive you crazy. You'll be chasing it like a dog chasing its tail around and around. You'll never fix it because if the pump isn't putting out the right pressure, all kinds of other things will happen. And you'll think, oh, well, now this is wrong. No, and it was all because the pump didn't put on enough pressure. John W. says, I have a 2010 Ford Edge. It fails the emissions. I went to a test that says no communication. I took it to a bunch of mechanics and they could all communicate. What is up here? What's up here is the government machines test them differently than what the machines an average person or even a mechanic myself has. I've seen it all the time. On the data link connector, you'll see there's like 16 pins, right? Okay, and that's where you plug it in. Unfortunately, the scan tools that you use and we mechanics use pin number 4 to ground the tool so that it communicates, right? Now, don't ask me why, but a lot of these government testing machines, instead of using pin number 4, they use pin number 5. And if you've got communication with everybody else's scan tool but not the government, that means that pin number 5 isn't grounding correctly. You'll have to fix the ground for pin number 5. The whole body is negative electricity, right? Now, I don't know why it's this way. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard. That's how they work. So they're using a different ground than yours. And since the only thing is all the other ones work, but theirs doesn't, that means that that pin number 5 isn't grounding correctly. If you wanted a fast fix, you could bypass the whole thing. You could go to pin 5 where it comes out the wire, right? And just cut the pin 5 wire, then splice that wire and just put it on the ground, screw it on a metal part of the dash somewhere with a wire, screw it on, it'll be grounded, and then they'll be able to communicate. Somehow there's a problem with that ground. Now when you look inside there, maybe the pin 5 ground is all green because it's corroded. Get some spray electrical cleaner. Spray it and then brush it with a toothbrush and then blow it off with compressed air. Maybe it's just dirty and it's not connecting that way. I see that a lot because they use a different ground pin. I don't know why there's even 2 ground pins. They should have just put 1 and then you wouldn't have this problem in the first place. Next, 7 says, I have a temporary loss of brakes when I hit bumps. When I hit a steel plate on the road, the brakes went soft, and then they re-engaged. Now they're soft. I had to press the pedal really far. What could have happened? Bump is one thing. If you just hit a bump and they got soft, generally, that's a problem in your anti-lock brake system. It's a computer system. It's got all kinds of electronic servos and connectors and an electronic module, the ABS module that controls the stupid thing. You had a bump, the connectors could get loose, something happened to the wires, right? But you also said you hit a steel plate. And when you hit something, all bets are off then. And they're soft. You want to jack up the car and look, is anything leaking? See if anything's dripping. You hit something, it can bend things, then they'll start to leak. Or if you see your brake lines that are bracketed on got snapped off and now they're flapping in the wind, when you hit the brakes, that'll make them flap, take some of the energy, and the brake pedal will get softer. So get under first. Now, if you can't see anything bent or broken or anything, and it happened after you hit the big bump in the plate, it could have knocked something out in the ABS system. And then it could get super expensive. You need a guy like me to scan it and run a road test. Pray it's just something got knocked loose and you could put it back on again. But do, of course, look for leaks. You hit something big, you might have a hole somewhere now and it's leaking. It'll get real soft then. All right, Uber Eats is going to start delivering marijuana to people. Where? In Toronto. Well, you kind of would expect that. Remember old Ford, who used to be the mayor of Toronto? He was a self-admitted crackhead, and he was mayor for quite some time. Well, it only makes sense. I mean, when people get stoned, what do? Oh, man, wow, man. They want to lie on the couch and not do anything. Well, now they have to do even less. They don't have to go get the stuff. It'll be delivered by Uber Eats. And I'm assuming one of the reasons the Canadians are doing it is they're probably worried that people will go buy the marijuana, start smoking it, and drive their cars, and then they'll be driving impaired. In this case, they can just stay at home, and the Uber drivers can bring them the marijuana to keep getting them stoned, I guess. Realize, of course, marijuana is illegal in all of Canada, so they're not breaking any kind of laws, you know. I guess they just got to be leery if somebody on the American side of the border, they call up Uber Eats Canada, say, "Could you deliver over here to New York?" So this gives a new meaning to the word couch potatoes. They could stay on their couch forever. I guess they do have to get up and answer the door and get it. Most of the work is done by Uber Eats. They pick up the marijuana and they bring it to the people in their houses so they can watch hockey games while they're stoned, I guess. Uber can deliver marijuana to you if you live in Toronto now. Now, they haven't actually done it. They're going to do it soon, but they have it all, and it's legal. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Are they going to be Uber Eats robberies where they're stealing the marijuana from them? Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? You never would have thought something like that had happened in Canada, right? The world's turning into a strange place.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.